Hey, what's going on, guys? As some of you may know, based on my previous videos earlier in the EU on UFC 300, I'm a huge fight fan. I love the UFC. However, I've noticed some of the previous fight cards have been kind of underwhelming. I gave them some slack because I was paying more attention to the NBA and the NBA finals. But with basketball season being over, I was watching UFC 303 last night, and even with a great main event of Alex Pereira and Yuri, I still think it was a little disappointing. The card overall, not worth $80. So my goal here is to put together the second half of the year's matchmaking cards for the remainder of the numbered UFC events. Cards that are so good that even if the star, like Conor McGregor and Hamzat, how they bailed out and got injured, those things happen. My goal is to put together cards that even with the star falling out, it's still a great card overall, still stacked and worth your money. Let me know in the comments if you like it. We're going to get right into it with UFC 305. Now, most of these fights are already announced. Strix, Duplessis, and Adesanya headlining it. I'm not going to be talking about the already announced fights. However, I do think they should add in Volkanovski versus Aljamain Sterling as a co-main event. I like this for so many reasons. I'm a huge Volk fan. He's probably my favorite fighter. A lot of people say he should take time off. I would argue he just needs the right opponent, and a grappler-heavy opponent like Aljamain Sterling is the right opponent for him. I mean, just 2 years ago, these guys were both top 10 on the pound-for-pound list and champions in their respective weight classes. I love to see this fight. I think it's a great matchup for Volkanovski because I don't see Aljamain Sterling being a problem wrestling for him. He held his own against Islam, and I don't see Aljo knocking him out, putting him on a highlight reel. And it's a great tune-up fight for Volk because I think Max Holloway deserves a shot at the title against Ilia Topuria. Volk needs a tune-up fight. Let's see it. All right, next we got UFC 306. It's set on Mexican Independence Day, so I'm putting an emphasis on Hispanic fighters with it taking place at the Sphere in Las Vegas. So I'm trying to make it extra special. We got two up-and-coming prospects in the bantamweight division. We got Rojas versus Talbot. If anyone was watching UFC 303, you saw Talbot knock out whatever his name is in 19 seconds. Unreal. Both these guys are incredibly hyped up. Usually I wouldn't put two unranked kids on a prospect, but let's see them fight. Winner gets someone in the top 15. Got Henry Cejudo versus Jose Aldo for the second fight of the night. Both these guys are legends in their respective divisions, like ranked number 7 and 8. Both, I think, in their late 30s, 38, whatever. Winner of this gets someone in the top 5. Great fight. We got Brian Ortega, who said he wants to move up to 155. I can't think of anyone better than Charles Oliveira, as there's no one really in 155 I want to see Oliveira go against. And to be honest, he's already lost against Arman, and I don't think he beats Islam. I think it's a good fight until Oliveira figures out what he's doing next. And then, of course, you have the title fights. Alexa Grasso, Mexican fighter, Mexican Independence Day, obviously makes sense. And Valentina Shevchenko. Let's finish off their trilogy, as well as Sean O'Malley and Merab. Incredibly hyped up fight. I think this would be a fantastic card. Even if something were to happen to one of the main events, you got Oliveira, Jose Aldo, Henry Cejudo. This is a great card. We got UFC 307. I believe it's supposed to take place in Spain, but I'm not sure. But it's basically UFC 300 2.0. I mean, you got Bo Nickel, Max Holloway, Kayla Harrison, Jamal Hill, all fought at UFC 300. So it's like the sequel to their fights. We got Bo Nickel. I want to start him off against Chris Weidman. Chris Weidman, for those of you who don't know, former champion, beat Anderson Silva twice, crafty veteran. He's coming off a win in April, so he's not completely washed up even for his age at 37. I think he takes Bo Nickel the entire 15 minutes, and he used to wrestle in college, a well-respected college wrestler. So I don't think Nickel runs through him in the first round with his wrestling grappling. I think it's a tough fight for both of them, honestly. And then I'd like to see Nickel get at least 1 or 2 more fights before he gets into the top 15 because middleweight's looking pretty stacked right now. Then the next 2 fights, we got light heavyweights. This was on purpose. It's like a little mini light heavyweight round-robin 4-man tournament. The winner of these 2 respective matches would fight in early 2025 and then be the number 1 contender for Alex Pereira because right now there's really no one in light heavyweight that is an immediate contender for Alex Pereira after Magomed. Following this, we got Raquel Pennington, Kayla Harrison. I think this is a great fight. There's really no one else I want to see Raquel Pennington fight in that division. Kayla Harrison looked incredible, beating up Holly Holmes at UFC 300. And then, of course, you have my most anticipated fight of the year, Max Holloway, Ilia Topuria. I mean, Holloway's having the year of his life coming off that UFC 300 win, and Ilia Topuria needs to defend his belt. So, yeah. Rounding out the year, we got UFC 308 set in Abu Dhabi. You know, Islam loves fighting in Abu Dhabi. He's fought there like the last 2 years, and these Dagestani guys love fighting there too. We're going to do Ikram Aliskerov versus Joe Pfeiffer. Two incredibly good prospects. I think both of them have like 2 or 3 first-round finishes. Ikram just lost to Robert Whittaker. He took the fight on short notice, and it's Robert freaking Whittaker, so I'm not going to hold that against him. But I think these guys are the future of the middleweight division, and would love to see them fight. Then we got Shara Bullet Nurmagomedov, I butchered that, versus Kevin Holland. Again, incredibly exciting fight. I love to see them strike. Nurmagomedov, he's got one eye, and he's a kickboxer. I think it'd be a lot of fun, the shit-talking during fight week between these two, and be a lot of fun fight. Then you got Hamzat versus Jared Cannonier. You have arguably the most unreliable fighter versus Cannonier, who's a staple of the middleweight division. He's basically the gatekeeper into that top 3, top 4. If Hamzat can beat Cannonier, I think he deserves the #1 contender slot. If Cannonier beats Hamzat, obviously a ton of hype, puts him back in that #1 contender slot after that loss he just had in May. But yeah, I think it's a great fight, and we got to get Hamzat back, and he can't fight in America, so it has to be in Abu Dhabi. Then, of course, you have Islam, loves to fight in Abu Dhabi, against Arman Sarukian, the #1 contender. I think this is going to be an incredibly high-level fight, great wrestling. And then you got Alex Pereira, incredibly active champion, one of my favorite champions against Magomed Ankalaev. And I think this will be his toughest test to date. On paper, this is probably the most stacked card of the year. You have 3 faces of the UFC, Hamzat, Islam, and Alex Pereira all on the same card. But I'm expecting Hamzat to back out, in which case you'd have someone like Marvin Vettori, Robert Whittaker, someone on standby to fill his shoes. All right, UFC 309. It's in Madison Square Garden in New York, so obviously, you know, the UFC is going to try to make it huge. They always do every year. Starting out, we got Wonderboy Thompson against MVP, 2 classic strikers. I think both these guys are almost 40 years old, and they're not anywhere near getting close to that welterweight contendership. So I think it's just a fun fight, especially for both of them to, you know, finish out their careers in Madison Square Garden. I think would be great for Wonderboy Thompson. Then we got Diego Lopez. He's having the year of his life against Mozarf Evloev, who he actually lost to previously. Let's give this kid a rematch. He deserves it after everything he did at UFC 303. And the winner of this will get a shot at the title. Granted, the Volkanovski-Aljamain situation that I said previously in 305. It would depend on that. And then we got Colby Covington versus Justin Gaethje. I'm tired of Colby Covington fighting once every 2-3 years and keeping his top 5 position in the welterweight division. Let's get him fighting Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje coming off that loss at UFC 300. I don't see him fighting for the belt anytime soon, and he can't beat Oliveira, Arman Sarukian, or Islam. I really don't think he can beat any of those 3. So I'd say he bumps up to welterweight. I mean, I think he could run through Colby Covington and some of these dudes in the welterweight division. And also, you know, Colby's pretty boring. He's known for being boring, and Justin Gaethje's never had a boring fight in his life. So I think this would be an exciting fight and a great feature fight for this night. Zhang Weili, Tatiana Suarez. I think it's a great fight for the division. And then, of course, you got John Jones versus Stipe Miocic. I don't like this fight more than anyone else. I think everyone knows that it's the fake heavyweight title. Real one should be against Tom Aspinall. But it's going to happen, so let's get it over with. All right, finally, the last card of the year. We're going to do a McGregor card. We're going to try to reschedule him for one more time. I don't think he is fighting earlier than November, December, just because after it was announced he pulled out of UFC 303, we already would have heard about it, given Dana's excitement with this fight and how much he wants to schedule McGregor. So the earliest I could see him coming back would be November, December. So, yeah, I'm planning for December. But, yeah, let's get into it. Starting out the fight, we got Rob Font versus Umar Nurmagomedov. Umar is scheduled to fight Corey Sandhagen in August, I believe. I think he's going to lose, so let's get him back in there. Rob Font, I think he's a tough guy, but I think Nurmagomedov can win. And I think it's a pretty easy marketing tactic to have Nurmagomedov, Habib's brother, fighting on a Conor McGregor card. You're going to have Habib and Conor in the same building. The UFC love to stir the pot. I'm here for it. Then you got Sergey Pavlovich fighting Jason Almeida. Sergey Pavlovich coming off 2 losses. He really needs a win, but he's an exciting fighter. Let's get him in the division. Now, this feature fight I'm incredibly excited for. Paulo Costa, Yuri Prochazka, 2 of my favorite fighters, 2 of the most interesting people in the UFC personality-wise. Yuri, he's lost to Alex Pereira twice. He's no way getting a shot at the light heavyweight belt anytime soon. I could see him moving down to middleweight if in a couple years, if he could lose some weight. He said he walks around at like 210, 220. So, therefore, I don't think it's unrealistic. And Paulo Costa is a big middleweight. Let's have a catchweight fight, 195. Both these guys are superstars. They both have great personalities. And UFC can't really afford for either of them to lose anymore because they're both coming off 2 losses. Yeah, I think it'd be a really fun fight. I think it'd be a fun fight to watch. Then we got the co-main event. You got Jack Della Maina versus Ian Gary. As much as I hate Ian Gary, I think he should be getting somewhat of a contender shot soon. And I'm not happy about that at all. So I think Jack Della Maina is the perfect person to put him away. There's no way Ian Gary beats Jack Della Maina. And the winner of this would then go and fight the winner of Shavkat versus Leon, which I would schedule for early 2025. So Jack Della Maina, I think he pieces up Ian Gary, make it 5 rounds, really like put the hurt on Ian Gary. I think he absolutely destroys Ian Gary boxing-wise. Yeah, I'd like to see this fight. And like I said, winner gets the winner of Shavkat and Leon Edwards, which I probably would do for UFC 311, 312. So, yeah. Then, of course, we have Michael Chandler versus Conor McGregor. I would have this be for the BMF belt. Just throw a belt in there at this point. Chandler, I mean, he deserves it, at least for holding out his career. You got to give him something. Because I guarantee Conor McGregor's going to pull out of this card. Guys, I don't think Conor McGregor's fighting again. I think it's safe to say we've seen the last of him. So you got to have people on standby. My alternate choice would be Kamaru Usman. I think Kamaru filling in last year in Abu Dhabi against Hamzat justifies him fighting for the BMF belt. And yeah, I'd say you do Michael Chandler versus Kamaru Usman. It's an exciting fight. I'd like to see it. And then if your alternate choice doesn't work out, if Kamaru Usman said no, your emergency choice would be Volkanovski, but only if he loses to Aljamain Sterling. Because if he wins and then he's back in title contention, I don't want him blowing it for some stupid BMF belt. However, if Volk does end up losing to Sterling at 305, I say you let him fight for the BMF belt, and then he's the BMF champ for a while. He puts on fun fights. So, yeah, guys, these are my picks for the remainder of the year. Let me know what your thoughts are, if you liked any of these. If you like these kinds of videos, if you don't like these kinds of videos or any of my picks, please let me know too. Appreciate you guys, and yeah. See you later.